Hi. Well, it was nice meeting those of you who were able to make the meet and greet last Saturday. This is probably the most fun part of the class. This week we'll be collecting the data on the class project house. We will be sharing the information with our other group classmates. We will also be collecting data on the various relevant comparable sales and sharing them with our groupies as well. By the end of the week, your team leader will be submitting to me the best 5 comparable sales relevant to the subject property assignment. On another note, Chapter 10 introduces us to the income approach to estimate value. This is one of the hardest and misunderstood concepts in real estate appraisal. In fact, it is said that it separates the men from the boys, or the women from the girls if you must. It also certainly separates commercial appraisers from residential appraisers. Direct capitalization sets up the relationship between income and value. Simply put, if a property rents, say, for $2,000 a month, then how does that relate to its value? Wouldn't it make sense that if a property were to rent, say, for $4,000 a month, then it would be twice as valuable to the investor than one which only rented for $2,000 a month? And yes, that does make sense. So what we do as appraisers is look at the marketplace and figure out what rate of return investors are expecting to make on their investments by examining recent sales. For example, if we were to be appraising, say, residential units like a 10-unit residential complex in Garden Grove, we would look for comparable units that have been selling in that marketplace, say, for example, in Garden Grove. We would look at how much rent the buildings were making and how much the investors were paying for those properties. In a rough sense, that would give us our expected rate of return. Of course, we would have to take out their expenses to get the real rate of return. Once we knew that rate, which is referred to as the capitalization rate, we can apply that rate to the rents on the subject property that we are appraising, and we could determine the value that an investor would pay for that property. Having said all that, the book will go into a little bit more detail, but having this introduction will set you going the right direction so you won't get lost in the book. This week's section also talks about the reconciliation process. Very simply, this is when the appraiser analyzes the 3 approaches used to estimate the value of the assigned appraisal. We look at the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income approach. We determine which methods will give us the most credible and reliable opinion of value. We weight the 3 methods. However, we might weight them equally, we might weight one more than another, or whatever, and we arrive at a final opinion of value. Then in Chapter 12 refers to the appraisal reports. Now be careful. There is mention of some incorrect and outdated information. Complete and limited appraisal reports are no longer correct. Any mention of this should be ignored. The 2006 USPAP eliminated these concepts. I think your book has that section crossed out. If not, it should be. Refer to Standard 2 of the USPAP you reviewed on the net. Also, any mention of a self-contained report is no longer applicable. These have changed considerably over the years. Again, you should refer to the USPAP 2014 Standard 2. This is the correct information on appraisal reports. It clearly states in Standard 2 that there are only 2 kinds of written appraisal reports: appraisal report and a restricted use. Otherwise, oral reports should follow Standard 2, written reports as closely as possible. Well, it's time to close. I'll see you all next week. Stay in touch with each other. That's really important.